This part-time trader made over $150,000 with Funded Trading Plus in just over 1 week of trading. In this interview, Dylan shares his trading journey since starting back out in 2019, the obstacles he's had to overcome, and how his mindset has become his biggest ally. If you're a part-time trader who struggles to balance personal life, work life with trading life, this interview is definitely for you. Dylan drops some very important information in this interview which we hope you take value from. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy another Funded Trading Plus interview. So, Dylan, before we get started, you have been kind enough to join me today to talk about your withdrawal. But to give the traders some context on this account, you started off on a $200,000 account, scaled that account up to $400,000. You have withdrawn $100,000 of profit, which is massive, but you've also left a buffer of $50,000 in the account. How does that sound to you, and how does it make you feel?
It's good. It actually happened a lot quicker than I thought, and obviously there's 50,000 left in there. So hopefully I'll be scaling up to 800,000 in the coming days or weeks. We'll see how things play out.
Well, Dylan, I'd like to get to know more about you. Take you back to the start of your journey. Are there any key moments or experiences that molded you into the trader you are today, where you're withdrawing $100,000 with Funded Trading Plus?
So I started late 2019. It was kind of the COVID days. Everybody's getting into it. And even before that, like I was introduced to it from a guy at work. He's always on his phone, and I could see the numbers and the dollar. I was like, "What are you always doing?" And whatever. He kind of got me started, and then I went from there. And like during COVID, we had like coming into trading was wild because of the volatility, right? You're trading ranges of 200 pips, 300 pips. So it was it was a lot of losses, a lot of big wins right away. But it's the first two and a half years. Like I did well, but the biggest thing was controlling the risk. That was a huge problem for a long time. I blew many funded accounts. Like I've been max allocated at other firms too and blown them right up. so so the part about this 100K that's so special is the control that I had when I was trading it. Even in the past too, like the discipline and the emotional side of trading is what got to me more than my technical analysis or my skill on the charts. So to have it all come together now is pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome, Dylan. That is really, really good. So before we go any further into the interview, I'm just dying to know, what are you going to do with your $100,000 payout?
I'm not sure yet, honestly. Probably reward my family. I have a 14-month-old daughter and a long-time girlfriend, so we'll take care of them and then we'll go from there.
Oh, nice. No, that's really good to hear that. At least now you've got your options open, whether you want to reinvest it into more trading, look after your family. That's pretty awesome. I'd like to dig deeper into your development as a trader. So how have you acquired the knowledge that you have? Is it down to like one mentor in specific, or have you had like multiple mentors over the years? So just talk to me a little bit about this.
I've had a couple throughout the years. I started with, the first mentor I had. He taught me more about like an in-depth analysis of the market and how it moves. So not so much entries and exits, but just the game for what it is, right? And then moving on from there, I had a couple other mentors that were more based on exiting and entering the market. So today, if we fast forward, I use a combination of both. I use everything from the weekly, daily, 4 hour for kind of swing trading. Intraday is 4 hour and 1 hour, and then I still take scalps too, just based on whatever I see on the 5-15. I never drop lower than the five.
Yeah, nice. So what sort of trading style do you have? Are you a scalper? Are you sort of mixture of swing, intraday, scalping, SMC trader? What's your sort of style, Dylan?
Um, I prefer the swings, right? Like I still have a full-time job, believe it or not. So
No way.
yeah,
Making
so
$100,000 working full time, that's
yeah,
that's pretty impressive, Dylan. That's pretty impressive.
so so yeah, no, it's like I prefer the swing trades. I'd like to get in early in the week and then hold for the duration of the week or even longer if I can. Another thing too with the swing trading is I like to scale in quite a bit. So it's not like it's one position and hold, but let's say even if I enter a position at the London session, by New York, I'd be scaling in already. And then from there, it's either intraday out, hold the swing, hold both, move stops, whatever you got to do. So the biggest thing is for me is having a full-time job. Swing trading is preferred, right? But if you have days off, you got time on the charts, like I can move in the smaller time frames too, so it works. I don't really care how I get my 1%, if it's 5 minutes or 5 days. So
Nice, nice. I was going to actually touch on that. You said that you work in a full-time job and trading and making such large profits. A lot of the traders watching this interview on YouTube now will be thinking, how is he balancing a full-time job and trading at the same time? What is like the biggest piece of advice you could give to other traders watching you now, um, who are working full time, who struggle to get onto the charts, who when they do jump onto the charts, they're rushing, they're just like panic buying, like a fear of missing out. What bits of advice could you give to those traders?
you know, like, to be blunt, it's just how bad you want it, right? Like, just because I'm making money now doesn't mean that the journey the last 2 or 3 years wasn't rough. Sleepless nights, going to work off of 2 or 3 hours of sleep because you didn't want to miss London session, right? As you can tell, it's 1 in the morning, but it's just how bad you want it. If you want to work a 9 to 5, or you want to, be stuck in that side of life, then that's on you. It's nobody's coming to save you, right? And trading's not for everyone either. People need to understand that some people just don't have it. Like, if you're more concerned about sleep, I'd say you're not gonna have $100,000 payouts.
I,
it's and
I like the mentality, to be honest, and I do
like
appreciate the mentality and how
I,
straight you're
I don't
being
know, like,
about it.
it's
It's
just
how
it's
bad
just
you
kind
want
of
it, isn't it?
well, it is. It's once you get the skill right, then you have the emotional side, the discipline side, the risk management side. There's lots that comes to it, but at the end of the day, it's easy to trade when you're well rested. You got a day off. Life's good. It's easy to sit down with a coffee at your desk. But what about the days when maybe you're at the job site trading in a bathroom on your phone? Can you perform
Yeah, I know, I completely
right? Like,
understand. It's
nobody wants to talk about that side of it. But when you have a full time job, you always have your full time job because you have things to take care of and responsibilities. But that's the reality of it. Are you going to check your phone
yeah,
at work?
yeah.
And are you going to perform on your phone the same way you do at a computer? Are you going to use excuses to say, oh, I took the loss because I did this, or I took the loss because I did that, or I wasn't at home, or I was tired? Well, who cares, right?
I love the
If
mentality, Dylan. Now, I really
if
do
you
love the attitude. Um,
like, and even for me, like, the time zone in North America is not very favorable for some of us, but you're putting yourself at a disadvantage as a retail trader if you're going to miss London and New York. Trade both. You can do it. Move your sleep schedules. Do what you have to do. You can do it. If you wanna be successful, then you really got to want it.
Yeah, definitely. And I do believe social media has a bit of an impact on, especially new traders coming into the market. And we see it all the time, especially on like Twitter and TikTok. And it's so easy to come across like it's all positive days, it's all winning streaks, it's all withdrawals. But very, very few people actually share the how hard the journey is and what you actually have to go through. Like you mentioned earlier, trading from the porta cabin on site or from if you're in a restaurant. Nobody,
What?
no,
Yeah,
we need more of that in the space. I think what you've mentioned is absolutely brilliant, and it should open a lot of eyes out there, to be honest. Because as you mentioned, it's not been easy for you. Yes, you're making $100,000 now, but as you mentioned, it's not been easy. But my question is, Dylan, you've made $100,000. You're working full time. When does working full time and trading stop, and when do you pursue trading full time? Is that something that you want to do? And if so, when?
you know what? The amount of times I've been asked this in the last few days is pretty crazy. But I think everybody's just shocked that I'm getting ready to go back to work. But um, full time trading as my daughter gets older and I want to spend more time at home. I obviously have the ability to be full time, and that's what I'll do. But she's younger now, so I my day job pays me pretty well. Not gonna lie, so there's no point giving that up yet, and then it just adds stress to trading, right? I'd like to build up a lot more capital, and then I'll probably pull the pin, like I said, as my daughter gets older and I can be home for all the important events that'll be coming. So
So, what a good answer. You seem so level-headed. You're not getting carried away because I know people who have made a lot less, who have jumped the gun a lot earlier and traded full time. And as you mentioned before, it's the pressure that adds to your daily routine when you're working a full time job. At least even if you have a bad month's trading, you've got the income from your full time job coming in. And people don't realize how important security is. And people make 1 or 2 withdrawals,
yeah,
and bam, they're
well,
they're, they're, they're
even
trading
with
full time.
a full time job too, I think think another thing that's tough is when you're a full-time trader, like, I've had periods where I'm more or less full-time, right? I work in oil and gas, and sometimes we're, laid off for weeks at a time or whatever, waiting for the next project. But when you're sitting at home and you catch yourself screen watching and all of a sudden your results deteriorate, but you don't, like, people don't see that when you have a full-time job and you're busy, you set your stop, set your profit target or leave it open, whatever style you choose. Your mind's occupied in the trade, you're letting the trade run out, right? Which is what you should do, depending on your trading style. But I've noticed myself, especially when I was still learning and whatever, if I had days off and I was trading like I was a full time trader, just at my desk all day, my performance was actually worse. It wasn't until probably the last 2-3 months where I really got that under control and found discipline and just holding out. Right, holding trades is the biggest difference in the last 2-3 months, even 6 months for me. But I find a lot of people I know even that have went, yeah, no, I made my first 20-30K, I'm quitting my job, whatever, and then all of a sudden the results start to deteriorate. They were trading better when they were busy during the day.
Yeah, no, you touched a little bit on your mentality, and I was just wondering, was there a point in your trading when that psychology just clicked, and you just, because you mentioned about holding trades longer, where was what moment was it where you realized, you know what, there's been a change in my trade and I can hold trades longer, I feel more comfortable. Was it after like a string of losses, or when did this come about?
Well, like I said, I've spent a lot of money on failed challenges. I mean, you guys know that. Um, Even my personal accounts, taking a small $1,000, $2,000 account, flipping it, right? Like, but a lot of the account flips are big on social media for a while, and having that
Yeah.
skill and everything's nice, but the longevity of it is zero. You're right. It's more or less educated gambling, if it's even educated at all. So eventually, like, pardon my language, you just get tired of your own shit. you know,
Yeah.
you look at you look at Trading View, and like I've watched myself miss out on 200-300 pips on swing trades just because I closed early because of one candle, right? And
Yeah.
so if you can start to capitalize on a lot of those bigger moves, as a swing trader, life gets a lot easier. And once you're in profit, it's easy street, right?
I love the mentality, Dylan. You have touched upon a couple of hard moments in your training journey, such as failed challenges, the obstacles you had to face in the early days. But what I'd like to know, if you could go back to the start of your trading career, knowing everything you know now, what is the one piece of advice that you would give yourself to maybe just speed up that learning curve a little bit?
Uh, that's a tough one because part of it is you have to get beat up to get good at this game. Like a lot of the most successful traders I know, I'm sure there's things they would have changed, but the trader they are today is because of all the losses. So to speed it up, risk management is definitely key, right? Like, the whole industry preaches about it like a broken record. But the other side of it too is it's not just risking 1% per trade, right? Like, you have to look at trading as its entirety, and it's more of an art than anything else. It doesn't have to be so rigid. Is there rule-based approaches that work? I use them, like, of course there is, but you need to be able to move throughout the market. And I think when I started, I had a very closed mind on how to enter and exit the market. And the more experience I've got now, you know, I just I just think you need to understand where you're at. Consolidation. You need to understand if you're in a trending market. You need to understand there's trends within trends. So if you can have a deeper understanding off the start instead of being so focused on making money right away and entering and exiting the market in the long term, I think that's very beneficial. It took me a long time to understand how the market actually moves, you know, and even to this day, right? You're never done learning, but I'm at a pretty good place now, and things are working out. So
Yeah, awesome, Dylan. Awesome. Well, there's going to be a lot of traders watching this who are inspired by you, motivated to achieve what you have achieved in the last few months with us here from the Trading Plus. What could you say to them to maybe just help them with on their journey?
when you feel like giving up, just keep going. Like there's been countless times where I've, built an account up, especially personal accounts, 1,000 to 10,000 to 20,000, and pissed it all away in one or two trades, right? Like it's it's just part
We've
of
all
it's just
been
part
there.
of
We've all been there,
the
definitely.
yeah, yeah. It's part of the journey, right? Like Don't look at trade like, of course trading is about making money, but you have to really love it. You can't just come in and say, yeah, today I'm gonna make 20 grand, today I'm gonna make this, today I'm gonna make that. Don't have expectations, learn the skill, and don't give up. The longer you're in the game and the longer you're educating yourself, I think the better chances you have at success. So that's what I would say. Just don't quit. You'll get
Yeah.
there. Just don't quit.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to take a lot of value from that. And there's a few things that you mentioned in the earlier questions as well about mindset, psychology, and just mentality in general, which I'm sure they're going to take value from. So I'm absolutely buzzing with those answers. So before we go into the quick questions round, what I'd like to know is what was it about Funded Trading Plus? How did you hear about us? What was it in particular about us that made you want to trade with us and the reason that you signed up in the first place?
So before I was with Funding Trading Plus, I'd dabbled with a couple other prop firms, and then I actually saw you guys on an Instagram ad. So I said, well, whatever. There's tons of prop firms popping up. I'll see what they're about. And then at that time, you guys were one of the only ones with no time limit. I think there was you and maybe one other firm. So that was pretty appealing, just because at that point in my trading career, I was really trying to just dial in my risk, and having no set days, it worked out in my favor. Obviously, I got the account, but the no time limit was big, and same with the scaling, right? So to me, that was pretty sweet compared to what a lot of the other firms had offered. Because it's kind of, if you want to scale your account, then you better sit down and put in the work, because it's not based on time; it's based on performance. The other part that I like is I'm a swing trader, right? So the balance based drawdown is key. When it's based on equity, just because I go break even on a trade that was up X amount of dollars doesn't mean it's a loss, right? To break even. So a lot of these equity based firms, I don't deal with them, just because my swing trading suffers because of that. And swing trading is some of my biggest profits, right? So and other than that, the max daily drawdown. This will probably surprise you. I actually prefer it because it keeps me in check risk wise. Because like I said,
Interesting.
some of my previous habits were, it was the Wild West out there, right? So you know,
Yeah.
some people would say, "Oh, this sucks." It's like, no, not really. Just play within the rules, right? And you'll do fine. And most of the times when you've already lost 1 or 2% a day, that third trade's a loss anyways. You're right. Like, you didn't get it, and you might even be taking like the same trade idea a third time and still losing, right? So I think
No,
that
it's
actually
it's
helps.
it's awesome that
I
you've
think
said
that
that,
actually
Dylan,
helps.
because it's awesome because we've had people talk about we've also had it's weird that you say that because most of the successful traders that we have, they don't let themselves get to that 3% daily
Yeah,
drawdown anyway. And also you mentioned about the scaling plan, how achievable it is. You can obviously you've scaled up yourself and it's actually achievable. You can make 10% with no time limits, no pressure, no time restrictions, and to double your account
yeah.
every 10%. And the way that you're doing it, you're very close to the 800,000 scale up already. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Another thing similar to the daily drawdown is leverage. A lot of people talk about leverage as in you need a lot of leverage to be successful, but you're a clear example on why our leverage 1 to 30 it makes it more manageable for the traders. And people think that we do this to make it harder for the traders. It's not. It's just so that you can manage your risk and manage your expectations. And we want you to be in this game for as long as possible because when you profit, we profit, and that's the most important thing. So it's some really great points that you brought up there, Dylan. And yeah, how do you feel about the scale up planner? Yeah, what's your goal? Are you going to ride it all the way up to the 2.5 mil?
Yeah, that's the end goal. I think the biggest thing with the scale ups though is I think you need a large buffer, right? Because when you jump from 400 to 800, right? I think what do you need? What does it say? You need 40K. Well, I'd
Yeah.
go 80K, right? Then you have 10 trades at 1% to lose. So I think it just takes time, right? But the scaling, I really really actually like with you guys. Every 10%, and then it's on the trader whether they want to scale up with no buffer, scale up with a lot of buffer. So,
Yeah,
um,
awesome, Dylan, man. I could literally sit here and talk to you all day. Your answers have been absolutely spot
yeah.
on. Learning a lot myself, so I'll be taking notes down at the end of this interview anyway. But let's move on to some quick fire questions. And then Dylan has been kind enough to jump on TradingView. We're going to jump on TradingView, have a look at some of his couple recent trades. And yeah, so we'll get stuck into the quick fire questions round, starting with what is your favorite trading pair?
Oh, it changes, like as the market changes, it changes. Right now, I've been making pretty good money on the dollar pairs. USD JPY. I used to trade GJ quite a bit.
Nice.
Um, but I actually prefer UJ right now is I like, and EU USD CAD is slower, but I like it for long term trades as well.
Very nice, very nice. So, what is the first thing Dylan does when he sits down at the charts for the first time that day? Do you have any processes or plans, or do you just sort of take it in your stride?
Uh, well, obviously, usually on Sunday I'll mark stuff up. This week's been a little bit different just because we have that bank holiday on Tuesday, so I'm not really looking to execute much until after that. But usually I'll sit down and I always want to start with a 4 hour daily. Depending on what I see there, I might jump up to the weekly, have a look. If it's the end of the month, obviously look at the monthly and look at a super big picture. You never know when you could build a really big position that way. But 4 hour and daily for sure. And then from there, I'll figure out key levels here and there and set alerts, and then we drop down to
Awesome.
the smaller time frames as the week carries on, right? Just because you're wrong, even trading on the 4 hour and the daily, a lot of the time there's a trend within that trend that I'd like to take advantage of. So it just depends what I see.
What rules do you have in place to stay consistent and disciplined?
Uh, so as far as stop losses and stuff, like I really try to put my stop loss in a place that invalidates my trade idea, especially, and not just that, but invalidates the direction. So a lot of times you can put your stop loss, tighter, but if you hit your stop loss, who's to say you're wrong in the direction? I find if you can be a little bit more patient, or even have a larger stop loss at times, and know that when you're taken out, you're wrong, and move on to the next trade. I find that helps a lot in regards to over trading and managing your risk. Because it's when you're wrong, it's like, okay, so now the market only goes two ways. So now we'll look for the buy or the sell, vice versa, right? So that's where I like to put my stop loss.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's perfect. What is the motivation when you have losing streaks or a losing day? What keeps you motivated to carry on and continue feeling confident in your trading abilities?
I think being a good loser is more important than being on a run that I'm on right now. If you can take a loss and take one, two, three loss, four losses in a week and still show up the next day and get it all back in one trade, like that's very key. A lot of people will emotionally, they're just kind of not there in their trading, and when you can get to the point where it's just money, it's just a trade, you're not really too wound up about it. I find that helps a lot to get yourself back on a winning streak. Um,
Ah, that's nice.
because
That's
losses
that.
losses are gonna happen, right? Like everybody's gonna take losses. If we were always right, we'd all be billionaires, and we're not. So
That's very true, Dylan. Very, very true. No, good, really good answer. Final question before we move on to the trading view. What is more important to you, win rate or risk to reward?
uh risk to reward. I like the fact that we all know the math, right? If you have a high risk to reward, you don't have to win as many trades. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah, awesome. Happy days. Well, thanks a lot for answering them quick fire questions round. I'm going to take a brief pause while we get Trading View set up and we'll be right back. So, guys, we are back with Dylan on Trading View. He's been kind enough to go over one of his recent trades on AU, which I believe he only closed just before we got on this interview. So, pretty fresh. So, yeah, let's, without further ado, Dylan, all yours.
Okay, so just to recap that the last trade I was in, um, as you can see here, where are we at here? Like big impulse, right? So we treat this as a correction. Obviously, I favor this to go down. But in the meantime, the trade that I took was actually a small scalp on the 5 and the 15. We had that RBA news come out. I'm not really a fundamental trader, but I'm aware of when it happens. And like I don't know if a lot of people know this, but highs or what was it? Highs take lows, lows take highs. I can't remember how they say it, but either way, I was looking at this strong impulse down, fill this imbalance through here, entered on the 5 minute on a break of structure, push to the top, targets the whole number at 66,800. And then to fast forward from this trade, now that small sell, my overall bias is short. So let's go even up to the 4 hour. This wick's going to be very important to me around 66,900, even coming into that 60, 6,700 whole number. And I'd be looking for this do something like that. And then obviously we're going to be in the swings for the sells. If that doesn't happen, it's no worries. We'll look for something like this on the longer time frames. I'll just go over my entry too on the 5 minutes. Breaking these highs right here. Let's clear this chart up a little bit for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know it's quick, but that's just how it happens. But
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Am I right in saying it's quite smart money concepts, kind of intuition, or is it sort of a mixture of everything that you've learned over your time as a trader?
I've never paid attention to smart money concepts. I just thought there's too much on my screen. But like I said, very trend based approach, like the actual price, the number based approach, reversals on the 4 hour, which I'll show you in a second. And then yeah, the entry was off of here. My target, like I said, I hit my target. I closed, you know, about
Nice.
10
So
pips.
you're targeting a whole number. Is that like a psychological number, or is that something that you just rinse and repeat over time?
Uh, um, I learned that from a couple of mentors of mine, and that's just
Nice.
how we do it.
Nice. So
So
on this chart, where would you have your stop loss? Would it just be below the lows that's just been taken?
it's right here. There's your entry. There's your stop loss. There's your
Nice.
target. It's a scalp, right? So it
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
wouldn't even be a
Nice
one to
trade.
three.
Really nice trade.
Quick 1 to 1. Like I said earlier in the interview, I don't care how my 1% comes, but this is pretty easy, right? It's pretty easy stuff. A lot of people get scared when you see candles like this, but all this is to me is an imbalance, just like the
Yeah.
one we tried. Oh, just same as the one on the 15 minute that I was targeting. I'll go back in a second to show you. I'm on my iPad, so it's not ideal, but we're making it
Yeah,
work.
no, that's perfect, mate. That's perfect. So you're saying at the start of the week you're looking at the daily bias to give yourself some bias. Once you've had the look at the daily, do you mainly just focus on the 4 hour and 15 minutes, and then sometimes the 5 minutes for entries? You try and keep it as simple as possible, or do you just float around all time frames?
I pay attention to the daily every day, how it closes, especially where your wicks are.
Mhm.
But for the most part, the 4 hours is what I'd monitor. Like if I was in a trade, unless I was only going to be in for a couple hours, and I had a small target. Um, I'll check it every 4 hour close to see what's happening.
Nice,
So
awesome.
so yeah, like I said, this my basis on this chart, even though it's blank, is you know impulse down, looking for a correction. DXY kind of says has it paints a similar picture, so that's what we're going with now. Like I said, a couple wicks I'd like to pay attention to, and a couple price points. We break above that, we'll take the longs, right? So like
Yeah, awesome. Yeah,
I
really
think
well explained as well. Really well
I think
explained, gone over what you look for. So that's really,
yeah,
really good.
like another thing too for traders that are coming up. It took me a long time to figure this out too. Is sometimes Sunday, Monday, maybe you're like, oh, so this pair is a sell. Like I'm selling this pair, right? I'm shorting it no matter what. And then something happens to invalidate you, and you're very slow to get in on the okay, we're going long.
Mhm.
I've missed more trades and lost more trades by being stubborn in that sense and not being able to flip my bias whenever I need to. So
Yeah.
that's another key thing. Like if you can have a rule based approach where, like I said, price breaks that wick on the 4 hour, I'm going long. That's just what it is. I'll treat, for example, go back to this. If where was it? So this wick right here, we close above on the 4 hour. I'm looking for something like that. And even if price pushes up and then pisses around or whatever comes down, as long as this holds, this is all relief for the move up,
Nice. It's good.
right?
It's good. It's quite refreshing, Dylan, because a lot of traders that I speak to nowadays are very focused on the lower time frame entries, 1 minute entries, 5 minute entries, and the way that you focus on the 4 hour seems to obviously work really good for yourself. And I think if sometimes traders get lost on the smaller time frames, like you said, sometimes there's trends inside the trends. So it's good to hear that how successful you're being focusing on the 4 hour. Yeah, you take entries on the 5 minute, but you're looking at a 4 hour, and until that bias changes on the 4 hour, your mind is focused on either a long or sell, depending on what it is at that time. That's pretty cool.
Well, this, for example, we're zoomed out quite a ways, right?
Yeah.
But we know from the 4 hour, this is a massive impulse, right? A lot of
Mhm.
people, if you get caught watching the 15, the 30, and the 5 over the last, 20, 24 hours, you're thinking this is bullish.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, is there buys Is there buys in there? Of course there is. But you need to understand what you're trading. You're not going to put a target up here, right? Target previous highs, whatever you need to do. You know, if you ended up finding an entry somewhere through there, retest the structure, target the highs. Don't get greedy, right? You got to understand where you're at in structure. And like I said, until this breaks through here, which it's getting close to, so we'll see if it respects. We could be shorting this pair maybe today or tomorrow. We'll see. It all depends. But and as long as this holds, I'm taking the long-term bias of impulse, correction to another impulse. And then if this does break, well, break, retest, take the longs. It's I don't know. I try and keep it as simple as possible, and obviously there's more to it. I can't give you the keys to the city in one call.
No, you've given enough away. It's more the thing that I've taken away most from this interview with you is your mindset. Even just going over your chart there, you're talking about very simple turns, very latent turns. If it goes this way, I'm going long. If it goes this way, I'm going short. You know what you're doing before you even like going to enter a trade. And if something changes, you know what you're going to do then. So you've just got it mapped out very well in your head. And I think that mindset psychology, you've really got ticked off. So that's really, really important. And I think I'll be taking away as a lesson from today. Just keep it simple sometimes, don't get too lost in those smaller time frames.
Even well, FTP, they'll know how big the trade was. It was a pretty big winner last week, the USD CAD long. If we just look at the weekly here, you can see impulse, retest, kind of, and then you kind of had this smaller term correction. You finally had a push back into previous structure. So if we go from the weekly even down to the daily, this right here is where I entered on. It was the 4 hour I entered, but it's the same thing. Look at this. This is a weekly zone, a weekly area of price, a zone, a line. What I don't care how people mark it up. It's all the same, right? Everybody has their own terms. People can say what they want. So, anyways, this area of price, and I think I actually entered. Actually, I know I didn't have a very good entry because I was being a little bit impatient that day. I entered, it was somewhere up here. So I held all this drawdown, and then I actually scaled in at the bottom. As soon as this candle closed, I saw the wick. I knew from the weekly and the daily time frame that that's a sensitive area of price. It's a spot where price is previously rejected, and I treated this as more or less a fake out on a higher time frame. And as the trade was playing out, I was looking. I said, this is going to be a wick on the weekly candle, and it ended up working out in my favor. But even if this lost, right, it's just the same principle: push away, push back, look for the sell. So
Awesome.
So yeah, that was USD CAD last week. That was a big trade, and then fast forward to today, same thing. Impulse up. What's this? Probably a small correction. Could come down a little bit lower. I think there's structure on a smaller time frame that we could use. If you already got a wick here, fill the wick. Maybe go back up. 1.33. Fill this imbalance. Oh, I got a draw. Sorry. Fill this imbalance. Fill this imbalance here. That could be a trade, right? It's just like I said in the interview, you got to be able to move. So, don't be so rigid. It's an art.
Awesome. No, awesome. I really like the way you talk about your trades and how passionate you are about your trading and your setups and yeah, the process, like the rinse and repeat mindset that you've got, that you're just doing this over and over and over and over again. You got an edge in the markets, and that's what you use to your advantage, Dylan. Just so traders know, is there any way that traders watching this can get in touch with you, whether you're just happy on the YouTube comments or Discord? And how can people get in touch with you and ask you? Because I'm sure they're going to have some pretty good questions about this interview. Is there any way that they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, like you could. I'll open up my Instagram. If people want to get a hold of me, I think I'm private right now, but I can open that up, and it's just my name, Dylan Alderdice, Dylan. Last name Alderdice. And other than that, I'm on Discord as well. You can probably find me. You can probably find me on Telegram as well. So, if you want to get a hold of me, reach out, or get a hold of people in Discord with you guys, and you could forward them to me if you'd like to. It's all good.
Awesome. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for joining me today. On behalf of all the team here at Funded Trading Plus, congratulations. You truly do deserve every dollar of your withdrawal. We can't wait to see where you take this account, and hopefully I get to catch up with you again sometime, Dylan, and talk about your next level scale up plan. That'd be pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, let's do this again sometime.
All right, Dylan, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. Thank you for going over everything, all the questions and that as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, take care.